And we are live. Welcome back to another episode of Vaughn Coleman Presents. Of course, I'm your host, Vaughn Coleman. And more specifically, today, I'm here as the editor for a comic called Star Riders. And without further ado, let me introduce the creative team. Ladies and gentlemen, the writer of the book, Tony Bedard. Tony, how you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
It's going well. The inker, Rob Hunter. And head of Phenom Comics, Tom Fenolio.
Hey, everybody.
So before we get started, I guess we'll start at the beginning, and whoever wants to, answer can go ahead. How did this start? How did Star Riders? Who came up with the idea for Star Riders?
I guess I'll jump in on that one. To tell you the truth, Phenom Comics was sort of just, it just was a ball and it started rolling down the hill faster and faster. My brother and I, have all these stories, and so we're really just trying to bring them out. And the best way to do it is really to bring the professionals. So the first person we met was our, long time ago, our friend Rob Hunter, and he just opened up the world of the do's and don'ts, the who's, maybe the who nots, I guess. And he really kind of just plugged us into really the professionals and the people that we were going to learn the trade from. And so with Hunter Ninja Bear, you've got Chuck Dixon, and then on Star Raiders, our second one, we got Tony Bedard. So we were like, oh my God, you've got incredible. So the first story had come out with Hunter Ninja Bear, but all in the background, we were chugging in parallel with Tony and Star Riders. So Tony really just took Joe and I's like synopsis, just napkins, Post-it notes, concepts way up there. And he really drilled down on what was physically possible as far as in the constraints of a story, but also physical. And him and Scott McDaniel hopefully will join us. But really those two broke down the story into science, into, hey, is this really quantum physics? Is this accurate? So I think where it really started was a story from Tom and Joe. And then Rob brought in all these professionals, the best of the industry, and they really showed us their trade. So it was really, really neat working with Tony because he was such a collaborative spirit that he would just bring everybody in. No idea it was a bad idea, but we'd work it through. So I think really the thing I learned from Tony was just the most humble, but very nice, but just knowledgeable as far as story structure, but just very laid back. Like, hey, you guys, we're not solving world hunger. We're telling a story. Let's get down and let's put it together. So that's how I started. And then Rob or Tony, then it came into your guys' lap. So,
what about you, Tony? Is that how you recall things? Is that?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I think Rob, reached out to me first because he knew that this whole undertaking was starting up, and put me in touch with Tom. Tom sent me a couple of different like proposals, synopses, basically laying out what the story is. And one of them looked like instantly marketable and totally the thing that would fly off the shelves. And the other one was this sort of quirky space race story with this family at the heart of it. And it was just funny because I think I was 2 when the first moon landing happened. But I remember from early on seeing that stuff and being inspired by it. And I actually wanted to be an astronaut. Well, who doesn't, right? But for a long time, I was seriously going to try and pursue that.
Oh, wow.
That's what hooked me. That spoke to me. And I thought, this could be a really great, self-contained story with real emotion at the heart of it. But what I didn't mention was that the story is like cosmic in scope. It goes, from a very grounded and, character-centric thing to suddenly, I don't want to give away too much, but it really goes beyond where you expect it to, and then just keeps on going. And we had a lot of fun just talking that through, bouncing it back and forth. And when we got Scott in the mix, that was also great because he has an engineering background, and it totally comes through in his work. The way he understands, he's a master of perspective. First time I saw his work in Nightwing for DC, I was just blown away. I'm like, who is this guy? This stuff just jumps off the page. So Scott, I think, was really better than me at sort of making sure that the science is accurate enough, And okay, so it just sort of took off from there.
Well, Tony was my favorite superhero writer at DC. And when Scott and Tony you guys did the Chinese project, I was jealous that I didn't even know what it was until it came out. So I already had those guys in my head, like, oh, those guys made a great team on that. And then Scott does boring scenes, super dynamic or super cartoony and fun and bouncy. And when Tom had sent me his like outline breakdown, whatever we want to call it, I remember just thinking like between Scott and Tony, those guys would do like, because I mean, you could find someone who was trying to do Jim Lee or whatever, and it would be, you know, it wouldn't be realistic. It wouldn't be fun. It wouldn't be the family unit. It would be just, you know, a bunch of cool down shots of guys being, you know, everybody, you know, looks like they're 7 feet tall and 350 pounds. And I'm like, well, that's not a Netflix show or that's not a movie, but Tony and Scott will make this feel like a movie or a TV show. And that's what I wanted to see the most between those guys. So, and that's what I told Tom, and that's how I pitched both of them to Tom. So,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, Tony. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and Rob's right. And it's funny because, well, like I said, Rob brought 90%, 99% of the people into Phenom. So give credit where credit's due. But Tony, you're right. I did, and I forgot. Yeah, I forgot that we pitched 2 stories to you. I forgot that. That's a blast from the past. I'm losing. Yeah, but yeah, you picked the right one.
Yeah, you can just tell right from the start that it had a lot of heart to it, you know. And you know, the biggest, craziest things can happen, and if you're not connected to the characters, it's not going to matter. So,
right.
That's interesting. You know, it's crazy too. Is that like, because I mean, because you come from superhero background, then just I assume Rob had no idea about his early aspirations to be an astronaut, did you?
No, I had no idea. That's weird.
It's almost like we get so caught up in the superhero world that we forget about other things. And what's crazy is like, because I went into comics as a superhero fan, and now I've edited like 5 books and no superhero books, and I love it. Like it's, you know, it's great. I mean, like, and you were so spot on with like hearing what's cool about it is because I was brought on later, and I'm glad I was, because it's now I'm hearing a lot of this for the first time, how this even came about. And when knowing that the story, without spoiling anything, it really is, and I'm not just, you know, fluffing it out. It's just, it's so unlike any other story. Is like, I was like, this is where it's going. This is where it's going. And then there's a point where it takes a turn where I'm like, what? And like, because people ask me, people have asked me, because I'm like, oh, check out this comic I edited. I'm like, these are both this, like, I have 2 sci-fi books that I edited, and one of them is, you know, obviously Star Riders, and they were like, what's Star Riders back? I'm like, what's the genre? And I'm like, well, it's sci-fi, and I'm like, dude, I tell them it's like it's so many different, it weaves in and out. I don't even want to tell you anything, because again, I read it blind, and it's such a great read in that regard.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's what I think we all were on the same page, is we didn't want to tell the same story. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's what Tony really brought. He brought, you know, really the firepower, because I think everyone's got in their mind's eye where you think the story was. And I think Joe and I were really focused on the technology, the villains, like the space opera side of it. And Tony was the one that brought it back to the, you know, the actual space race, you know, back to the 50s, the 60s, you know, this, you know, just the scientists, the NASA program, a lot of it. And I thought that was something I know we would never have thought of, you know, personally. And because I know the synopsis back where we started it. And I think it adds so much, because now these just aren't characters, you know, these aren't just people that you're waiting to see what happens. They're actually, you know, you see them growing up, you see the family structure, you see their, you know, issues kind of growing up. And then once everything falls off the table, you actually have got some, you know, skin in the game. And Vaughn, that's a great way to answer, because we've been holding back on a lot of the promos, because I hate trailers that tell you everything about
my God.
Yeah. And so it's hard to promote a book without promoting it. I mean, it really is.
Yeah, it is. I think and that's one of the things I keep telling my friends. I'm like, dude, you got to read the story. I'm like, why? I'm like, please. It's like, because it's almost like, you know, are you just asking for money? No, I literally can't like, I can, but then it's like, it's tough. It's kind of like, I remember there were movies, there was a trend. It's probably still going, honestly, for the past however many years. I used to obsessively watch trailers and rewatch them over and over. And I remember someone made the point to me. They're like, well, of course you know what happens the entire movie if you analyze every shot in the trailer. And I'm like, valid point. But like there are movies like Amazing Spider-Man 2 shows the final shot of the movie in the trailer. And then there are also entire subplots introduced in the trailer that literally don't make the cut. But the Star Riders trailer was so perfect, honestly, like when I finally watched it. In fact, now might be a good time to pull it up, and then we can get back to the discussion. Because it like sets the tone so perfectly, I think. And it's kind of like my thought process when reading. And correct me if I'm wrong, these were actual lines from the book, right?
Yeah. Half of them.
Half of them, okay.
Yeah, because the background NASA, that's just sound effects, and then we added the dialogue, obviously from the characters. But it was really just to set the mood. We had talked, I had sent the trailer to Tony and to Scott, just because really between us three, I'd say that we were really bouncing a lot of story ideas throughout the whole process. Where Tony brought us into his web, so I wanted to get there okay, and. Tony gave thumbs up. I think Scott liked the earlier version better, to be honest. But I think it all turned out well.
Yeah, I've been rewatching this trailer honestly, not even. I have no obligation to. I worked in the book. I know what happens in it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's no reason for me to. It's almost like, oh, I wonder what's gonna. I know. I edit the book, but I don't know. I like it.
One, two, three, four, five, five, four, three, two, one. Mike, Nick, hold tight. Roger that, Dad. All systems go. Tell Mom we'll be home for dinner. Godspeed. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, lift off and the clock is started. Yes, sir. Reading it loud and clear.
Houston, we've had a problem. This is Houston. Say again, please. Hey, Houston, we've had a problem here. Are you seeing this, Houston? Roger. Data's coming in. Stand course. For God's sake, this can't be real. Dad, do we have any objects?
Boys, fly safe.
That's one small step for man.
That is cool.
Very
That's
cool.
the first
Yeah.
time I've seen the trailer. That trailer's awesome.
Yeah, only 48%, guys. So make sure you back this. Link is in the chat right now. And if you're watching after the fact, it'll be in the description. I think I'd already put it there.
It's a great way of showing a bunch of stuff from the book, but without giving away the story.
Yeah.
Great job.
Well, thanks. Yeah, we tried, and we really, Scott. Rob. That's why all sort of the static. It kind of helped us because we, you kind of don't want to tell. You don't want to show the bad guys. You want to show the good guys. It's kind of a trick, but I thought it turned out pretty well.
I think so too. I mean, that's kind of what the book was like. So, oh, sorry, Tony. They didn't mean to cut you off.
How dare you, sir?
I didn't say anything.
Oh, okay, Tony. Are you all right?
Doing
All
good,
right,
doing
dude?
good.
You're fine?
I'm more worried about you, Rob, because it looks like you're in the board cube there or something.
Yeah.
I am. I've been working really, really hard. I'm trying to assimilate. First, I'll start with Florida, then the East Coast. So that's why I was trying to figure out where you are because, friends, so I don't really want to assimilate you. So I'll give you a little bit of a warning. I'll give you a couple hours.
I love the one of the things too is because when I read it, like there were certain. It was interesting. Also, we talk about the the approach with the penciler and the writer, and even just Tom on your end, and then down to like the inks and whatnot. But one of the things that I remember you kept mentioning to me is the colors, because you have to remember I have seen some of the colors, but not all, and it was like this whole interesting thing that like the colors. I don't know if I want to talk about that, but I know there's a few different colorists for different chapters. Was that something you wanted to?
Yeah, and I kind of, you know what, that's kind of one of the cool little things that we sort of want to hold off to, because it's very Wizard of Oz. It's very Wizard of Oz. So we structure our colors along with Tony's story, just to kind of, there is a demarcation. So we've got, you know, some of the best colorists in the industry. So I think people are going to be pretty excited to see who teams up with Scott McDaniel. So I would probably just, that's one thing that I want, you know, it's pretty exciting, because we really have great names associated from Tony on down. So there really isn't anybody within this project except for Joe and me that no one knows about.
Yeah.
So everybody is just an A-lister, and the colorists are no exception. So what they've done with Scott McDaniel, who I'm a huge fan of, obviously. Scott was giddy. So Scott, when you make your penciler and your inker happy, that's all you care about. You know, for all the colorists out there, for everybody, if you make those two guys happy, or, you know, people happy, then mission accomplished.
Absolutely. And even down to like Sinclair, like the first comic I ever read, Batman Hush, that was Sinclair coloring. So it's just, it's crazy seeing all this, you know, come together like that in such an amazing way.
But, you know, just remember, though, it helps, because if you look at from the top down, you got Tony Bedard, you got Rob Hunter, you got Scott McDaniel. Well, people want to join that. You know, there is something about professionals really admiring other professionals' work. And so it was really just that. It was, oh, really, Tony's involved? Wait, Rob? Oh, yeah, I know Rob. Oh, yeah, he knew Scott. You know, it's this whole collection of people that just really, out of respect and out of just people know the people that they want to work with. So I think you see a collection of people that are just real nice people that enjoy other artist work. So Star Writers really took off because there really was no demarcation. Hey, this is my area. This is mine. You know, Rob corrected the story. Tony corrected the color, corrected the inker. You know, it all kind of came full circle, but at the end, all of our hearts were going in the same direction. So, I mean, Tony was the greatest example. Tony let us tinker with his toy the whole way. So,
the one thing I learned a while back, 2001 through whenever CrossGen bit the dust.
2003.
We were all on site. That's, I think, Rob, I think I met you maybe once or twice before that, but we really got to know each other then. And but one thing that I found out was, if we, with all of us working together in the same place, we could just sit down around the lunch table, and I could pitch them the next issue of whatever comic we were working on, and just watch their faces. And you know, sometimes Paul Pelletier, the penciler of one of the books, I proposed something, and you know, I could just tell he didn't want to draw it. So fine, we won't do that. And then the inker and the colorist would say, hey, wouldn't it be cool if this happened? And if it was a good idea, hell yeah, I'm taking it, because I want all of us to feel ownership in the finished thing. You know, I think that
was the best book at CrossGen too, Tony, because of that. That's the corporate synergy of all the creators with all those ideas.
I don't put it that way. I just know that there are some people that put comics like, this is my, thing. It's my statement, and it must be pure, and that's fine for some. I really always got better results personally when everybody was in the mix.
Yeah,
it's a collaborative medium. I mean, unless you're, I don't think I've ever seen a comic where it's. I mean, very rarely will you have a comic where it's like written, penciled, inked, colored, by the same person, lettered, right? Like, there's always going to be. And that's kind of one of the things that you accept. And once you accept that synergy, it just kind of flows.
Synergy.
Yeah, synergy. Is that a big word for you, Rob?
It's my favorite corporate word.
Oh, is that a corporate word? I thought it was.
I use it all the time with the investors. I say synergy at least 32 times per meeting.
I was going to actually, one of my questions was, how do you guys know each other? And I can't believe I didn't guess CrossGen, because I swear every time there's like a close friendship in comics, every time they're like, oh yeah, we were a CrossGen together. Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, like Rob, I was like, oh, how'd you meet? Wait, Mel, was it Chuck or Mel that you met at CrossGen?
Chuck. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Bart Sears, you met at CrossGen. It's all every time like, oh, how do you know Rob Hunter? CrossGen.
Yeah.
Yeah. That explains it.
It was when I moved down there to start up with them. A lot of people were like, dude, we hear that's some sort of a cult or something, you know?
It was.
It's so weird in that industry to have everybody actually working in the same place. And it wasn't. It was a great opportunity. I wish that, you know, it hadn't gone under as quickly as it did. But, you know, but
It was fantastic.
Rob, didn't it feel like everybody who worked there got better because the colorists were there with
Yes.
Laura Martin and Justin Ponzer, you know, arguably the two best colorists at that moment.
Yep.
And they were teaching the other colorists what their tricks were. And
Yes.
all the pencils would go around. Everybody would put up a copy of their page, and somebody would, you know, you felt like you had the bar was high, and you had to meet that. So it was a good experience.
Yeah, it was a great experience. It was from the creator aspect, you could see everybody would do their best work or more, and there was the conflict between management and creative with some projects. But if management had no idea what the book was or what it was going to be, then creative could do a fantastic job with it. And that's exactly where Tony comes into play, because they had no idea what Negation or any of the books that Tony would work on, what they were supposed to be or what they were going to be. So those were the best books. And they were amazing because of it, because it was all creative. And he had all these guys, everyone's getting a check every 2 weeks. Everybody's coming in to work every day. It was, you obviously, like any job, you could be a little frustrating. Like, oh man, why can't I just work at home? You know, that you'd have that feeling a little bit, but then you realize, oh, all your friends are at work. I might as well just go to work. All my friends are there. And we could talk about the latest whatever movie while we're working on pages. This is awesome. So it was fantastic. Yep.
That's amazing. With the with the story, Rob, because this started out as almost like obviously like every story starts with my desk. If you could see it right now, is so many post-it notes, just whatever. But like when it comes to that, like what were some of your biggest inspirations when it came to coming up with a story for Star Riders?
You mean Tom?
Tom, yeah. Who did I say?
Tom and Tony. Yeah, you said Rob.
Oh, Rob. Yeah. All right,
dude,
yeah,
Rob,
when you came up with the inking,
we got to reprint the books.
I didn't do anything with the story.
You know,
I keep saying Netflix. This is a great Netflix pitch. That's
what
I
you
said
should do
about
is
the
when
story.
when someone brings it up to sign, Rob, you should just ink out their name and then written by Rob.
Yeah.
I just cross it out. Just write my name really big on.
Yeah, but you know, and just to give Rob his dues, just because we had about 3 or 4 stories at one moment going on, and Rob was the inker and really sort of the production guy, just making sure when I'm talking, hey, I can't get a hold of this guy, all right, I'll reach out to him. So Rob really filled a lot of shoes. So I think with Star Riders, it's just it was 1/4 of what he was doing at that moment when everything was going on. You know, he had 2 or 3 pages coming through from, you know, pages from 3 different stories. And so with Rob, with that, and with a lot of the kind of production duties, Rob really filled a lot of shoes for Phenom Comics. So thanks.
Oh, thank you.
But to answer your question that you said to Rob, Vaughn,
Dare you?
I think the stories, you know what, all of our stories, Joe and I just always had these stories. Like we've got 5 in the bag after this. And we're sort of just actually some of them were kind of put on hold because the big push for Hunter Ninja Bear, they want the next volume. So we've been kind of pushing that one up. But I don't know where the stories come from, but all of our stories are very cinematic. They were all built for film. And I think that's where you know, just the writer, and Tony, I'm not speaking for you, but I think from a comic perspective is that we were saying, hey, you guys, this isn't where the story ends. This was never our goal to cross the finish line with the printing of Star Riders. That's only the first step. And so we want to get it on film. So I think everything that Tony did was, okay, I hear what you're saying. This doesn't work in the confines of a film. And what Rob said about it being built for Netflix, because it is very cinematic. It is not a story that's meant to go issue to issue. And they're like 2 people are fighting while they're talking about what dinner to have. This is not one of those comic books. We are telling a story that is confined within these 2 walls, and then we're now to their next volume. But I think it gave Tony just kind of nice 2 little bookends. Hey, this is our story. We want this to be like Star Wars. Boom, episode 4. Give us an episode 4, and we'll go from there. That's all I
like all the back and forth that Tom and Scott had about the designs. Tony, were you involved in that too? Like, or were you just like?
Yeah, not so much. I think.
I wanted to stay out of it too.
Oh my! I hope Scott comes on because I get to tell my side of the story. Yeah, you know what? You had 2 guys that had two strong opinions, and Scott's a lot more creative, and I can't express myself very well. So what I do, I'm sort of one of these mass killers that put together these magazines with all these letters, and they're all from different magazines. They sort of don't make sense, but they sell this, they make the sentence, I will kill Jill at 8, something like that. So I would give this to Scott, and he'd say, "Oh, you mean this?" And I'd be like, "Well, yeah, but a ship won't act like that because it needs to defend itself." And we would get into the mechanics and the design, and at the end of it, we both realized that we did something that neither of us would have created. So between the 2 of us kind of going back and forth of no, yeah, hey, I like that, yeah, like that. I think we came up with something very iconic. I don't think that there are creatures, the main, I guess, army of villains, whatever, that
bad guys.
I don't think anyone's ever seen anything like this. I really don't. So
yeah, sure.
And even Tony's story, I don't think everybody does time travel, everybody does this, but I think there are so many different twists to this story that I think if you're a person that likes the art, you're gonna be happy. If you're a person that likes the story, you're gonna be happy. I think it's just an excellent. Obviously, I'm gonna say that, but I really mean it. I'm not 20. Like I always say, the book's $20. It's not worth $20 for me to lie. It is a great book. So
it's worth more than $20. That's another thing I want to highlight too, is because like a lot of crowdfunders, like generally the standard going rate is 20 pages for X amount. Well, the X amount here is how many pages?
230, but that's a rough estimate. I think it's going to be about 240, 250, but that's with the artist bio. But yeah, it's a big, thick book.
All right, you hear that? Around 230, 240 pages for just $20. That is
insane.
Yeah, there's
that is
a lot of story there.
It's insane rate. Yeah. Go in your local comic shop, see if you can find anything with that price.
No,
nothing brand new.
No.
But it's 8 issues, and what does an issue go for nowadays? Like $4?
We don't know.
$4 or $5, but how good are they? Usually not as good as Star Riders. I'll tell you that.
Yeah,
how much is a Marvel comic right now, Vaughn? Do you know? A monthly comic?
Last time I saw it was like $5-6.
Yeah. So okay. So
$6.
I think. I don't know if it went up to $6. I know certain things like I know that weren't Marvel. Like I know Frank Miller's Ronin was like $8 an issue, but those are 48 pages. But like,
well, that came out a while ago, dude.
No, Frank Miller's Ronin 2. The biggest second one.
Yeah,
I think they're around $5.99 probably now. I think.
Wow,
yeah.
So $6.
So $6. I mean, think about it. $6 an issue, and then Star Riders is 8 issues. But Tony knows that the last issue is really a double issue. So you've already got 9 issues there. So that's $45. But we don't think it's right. I mean, we've crunched the numbers, and I think $20 is. Hey, we're telling a story. This is a fair price of admission. We're definitely not trying to rip people off. I think I know we could charge more. People have told us from Idaho to Kentucky that we should sell it for more. But I think that's nothing was worse when I was a kid at the grocery store. My mom said, "No, put it down. It's too much." Hey, that's how we roll. So.
That's as a consumer, I appreciate it. I'm sure everyone in the chat will. So make sure you guys back it because that's an unbeatable deal. And you get the when you back it. Are there any campaign exclusives that?
I think we're gonna. Well, with the campaign, there's some hats. We've got the Phenom hats. There's a Star Rider hat. Everybody, we did a real nice poster, a cinematic poster for our first campaign, and I'm thinking that we will. And actually, Scott's working on the design of it now. So we might bring an exclusive poster and do it. But I think from our first campaign, when we saw what people were looking for, people just really want the story. we aren't selling board games. We aren't selling merchandise. We're not shirt people. We're not hat people. We're storytellers. So what we want to do with Star Writers, we're just let's get down to this. Here, ebook, paperback. If you want a hat, we'll throw it in there. But we didn't want to get too crazy with 40 million options because we're not trying to be campaigners. We're trying to be storytellers. So here's a story. Here's 2 different mediums you can get it in. And we hope that you love the story. So, it's definitely simple for a reason. We do not want to be professional Kickstarter or Indiegogo campaign fundraisers. This is purely for advertising to get the word out, and hopefully it kicks off. Yeah, so you'll see. So you got the ebook, you got the paperback on the right side.
I have a question about hold on, or first all of this stuff right here. Yep.
Yeah, and then there's add-ons that if you buy it, you can actually go backwards and purchase the Hunter Ninja Bear book and merchandise.
Yeah, you hear that? If you guys haven't gotten Hunter Ninja Bear, you can get it here too. So make sure to check that out.
Yeah, that's a beautiful book.
Oh yeah.
Oh, thanks, Tony. No, we're very excited. We're actually doing some working on bear graphics, the computer modeling and everything for some things for film on that already. So we've been kind of inundated with that. So Hunter Ninja Bear is definitely making a splash.
You didn't train real bears?
I tried, but they just no. Yeah.
Well, the breakthrough in technology that was cocaine bear, I think, has gotten CGI bear as far as you can take it.
Yeah, well, and it's funny, it always brings up the cocaine bear, and Hunter Ninja Bear was being made like 4 years ago, and even the cocaine bear graphic, their font, I know, but their font, you can get it on Word. You know what I mean? Like, there is some very low production value of that, and
super low production.
Yeah, and so we just, so it's kind of funny.
Production script too.
Yeah, and so we just, here, hopefully bears jump on that. Maybe Hollywood thinks bears are the next big thing, but our story was supposed to be so serious and so high production value, I guess, that when I see cocaine bear, it's like, all right, well.
No, I actually got worried. We started this project, the Star Writers, that long ago, and then the pandemic hit, and which was a weird blessing in disguise, maybe, because it allowed for more time to just really polish this thing. It's going to knock your socks off when you see what the interior pages look like. But anyhow, at some point during that time, For All Mankind came on Apple, and I think I finally watched it. I don't know, less than a year ago, and thought it was fantastic. But it's a completely different thing, and this isn't even by far the first alternate history space race story. I think Warren Ellis and Chris Weston did a thing called Ministry of Space. That was a comic. That was a whole different thing. Like the British had led the way on that one. And each of these stories has a different thing that drives it. I feel like ours stands alone because of that central family connection. It's something that's really deep and strong. And I was surprised by how certain characters worked out in Star Riders. And without giving away too much, let me just mention some of the setup for the story. Basically, how Werner von Braun at the end of World War II, we went over and got a lot of their scientists, and that guy wound up running what would become NASA. And so we have a character that's kind of an analog of Werner von Braun, but our main character is this poor Russian soldier that got captured and sent for forced labor, but he was really smart. And so they put him to work, and there's something real different about that character, Bogdan. He's not like other people. He comes up with this whole branch of mathematics that he gets, and it could be the key to traveling to other planets in the solar system, to faster than light travel, but nobody else can understand his stuff. Like
calculus.
Yeah, and there's a reason for that we reveal later. Only his two sons can understand. Yeah, can understand his equations. So it's weird. It runs in the family. When things really pop off in this story, you begin to learn what's the backstory to that. How did Bogdan become so weirdly intelligent, in ways that others can't understand. And it leads to a sort of a space race between NASA and a private, like rocket initiative, and then it goes much weirder than that. The whole mystery that we set up at the beginning, this guy made up his own, crazy calculus, and it works. Nobody can understand it. It looks like bunk to any other scientist, but it works. And once they do achieve faster than light travel, things get very interesting from there.
Yeah, that's well done. And it does get interesting, and it is something that's never been seen. I mean, really, the story sort of kind of took different shapes from, I guess, its original scope, but it was for all the best reasons. But I think Tony's setup's perfect, except that, people will be shocked. I can't say it enough, is that we as artists and, just writers and everybody, that we're trying to hold in our excitement for the story because we think it's a great story, but we don't want to ruin it. So maybe this is kind of a boring segment of, hey, these guys don't want to talk about this project. Why do I want to, invest in it? But we're doing it out of respect because it's a solid story and it doesn't need to get watered down by us trying to sell it. It will sell for itself. But once people start reading it and getting a little wind of it, Tony really kind of wound a masterpiece. And it definitely is the first volume of 3. Like all the Phenom comic books, we have broken down to 3 volumes. And hopefully they go on longer. And, but it definitely does not end with volume 1. So, yeah. And then we have more books along the way. But we're very excited. And even with the Kickstarter campaign, once that's done, we should be able to print the books immediately. So the cool thing about Star Writers, just like our first campaign, is no one's going to be waiting 4 years for this. This thing's already wrapped up. We're waiting for the last 2 chapters to be colored. The lettering's in, the printing's all set up, and we're ready to roll. So I think the neat thing about this is that we're not doing this, years in advance, trying to get money to do it. It's already done. It's in the can. It's written. It's been edited by Vaughn. So, it's ready to roll.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing, too, is the only people who had to wait were the people who couldn't talk about it under like us. But everyone else is like experiencing this for the first time. And it's great. It's and I'm looking forward to seeing, what the newest stuff is. I haven't even seen all of it, but what I've seen is just amazing. Like I've said, it really is. And it's unlike anything. That's another thing too. Hunter Ninja Bear was different, but it was easier to describe without spoiling it.
Right.
But it was still unlike anything else. But this, I mean, it's totally different. And I like the way you seamlessly, Tony, I wanted to ask you how, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Tom.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was going to ask you, how do you blend genres in such a way? Because the story takes so many turns. Like, how do you make it so authentic in the way it goes? It's so it's like weird because they're like hard transitions that you feel, but intentionally so. How do you go about like smoothing those out? Was there ever any like difficulties?
No, not really. And a lot of what works about the story was there in the original breakdown that Tom sent me. So it was just a matter of trying to build out from that core. The thing that I sensed was in this story that really captivated me, made me want to like tell that story on a more complete basis. But it was all building from that original write-up. So I never felt like, even though there are definite shifts and twists and mood changes in the story, it still all felt like it was the same, a natural progression of where it starts and how it kind of, circles around for a close. I hope you'll agree that we stuck the landing. I kind of feel like it's a hell of a ride and it's pretty satisfying.
Yeah, I've got a question that I'm the interviewer, but I've always meant to ask Rob this. Rob, you're basically the first person that's, you're the first person that gets to read and see the artwork. I'm thinking about like Tony writes it, then Scott gets it, and then you're the inker. So you're actually the first person that gets it. You get the art, you get the story, away you go. Like, what did you think of when you first started seeing the story? Because you and I talked about the story with Joe way before this got kind of rolling. So you knew the premise. So like, was there ever a shock of, man, where's this going? Or hey, Scott's really nailing this. Tony, where's Tony going? You know, I guess because you were the first person to see them together.
When I would get the pages from Scott, I would usually what jumped out to me and still like the things that I remember the most. I remember the how cool the astronauts in their astronaut space outfits looked. I liked the designs of the ship. I thought that was super cool. That really jumped out at me, and it jumped out at me just how Scott would put together the talking scenes, the scenes that like that's what I said was one of Scott's strengths. Is it was always these interesting shots where they're just talking heads, but Scott makes the most boring, typical boring. Oh, this is it. They're talking, they're explaining things. He does such a great job with that. And that's really, that's what would always, pop at me would, a page that was, oh my, oh, great. Here comes, I would know like, oh, here comes 4 pages coming into me. And it's all just a bunch of people talking in their house. I'm like, and then I get them and I'm like, oh, this is awesome. This artwork is awesome. Scott is doing a fantastic job. And then when it came to the designs of all the really sci-fi stuff, I remember looking at it going, this is super weird. I would never come up with this type of stuff in a million years. And I used to tell Tom, I'm like, this is just weird enough to be different for everybody who's seen the same stuff over and over and over again. So this is perfect. Like, this isn't Transformers. This isn't, super slick, edgy CGI Transformers from the movies. This is something completely different that people are going to be like, what am I looking at? They'll have to take a second look. They'll have to take a third look. And I thought that was probably one of the strongest things about it was that it's not what you expect. It's definitely nothing I would do. It's very like, it's very sci-fi and it's very cool. And then to go back to Tony, the core story is the family, and that doesn't, that's the thread that weaves in between, the all the issues.
Yeah.
So that stays strong, and that's, that holds everything together. That holds all that really crazy, awesome sci-fi weirdness and dynamic. But it all goes right back to the characters and how they know each other. So.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Yeah, I just never asked you. Out of all the things that we were talking about, it was always like, hey, when are you going to get these through to the colorist? You know what I mean? It was always, it was always scheduled.
Those freaking pages.
Well, really, when you're working, and Joe and I are learning from you guys. Well, Tony knocks out a perfect script, and we're like, oh my God, we didn't see that one coming. Then we give it to Scott. Oh my God, we didn't see that one coming. That's beautiful. Then we give it to Rob. My God, that looks great. And Rob knows this. I couldn't put it all together mentally until I saw it colored with letters on it. I just can't. I just made that's a gift for people, which I don't have. So we wouldn't make our edits, and Rob knows this better than anybody, until everything was colored, and we go backwards. And we've made a lot of changes, but that's the only way that we could process it. And really, the patience of, I guess, Rob and Scott and the colorists have been great. But it was just interesting seeing it through the different checkpoints. You guys were nailing it, but I couldn't put it together until I saw the final colored, product. It is strange. I don't know how you guys do it, but I can't do it.
It's experience.
Yeah.
Decades and decades and decades.
Oh my God.
Hold on. Even Vaughn and Hunter. You guys read this. I mean, you guys went through it, edited it, and that's tough. You guys were like, half that book was black and white. So that's tricky for you guys. So.
Well, because I remember, because again, I don't try not to give many details, because I know that it was like, I was reading it because Hunter Ninja Bear, it was like pretty simple in that it was like penciled ink, colored, lettered for this X many chapters. And then it gets to like, I think it was like chapter, I forget if it was even up to that point when I first read it, but I remember it was like the last point I had seen it before the book came out. It was, everything was like fully done. And then 11 was like penciled and lettered, and then the last one was just scripted. So I remember that. And even then, I remember seeing multiple versions of the script. With this one, it was like, it's all done. Then this is done, but there's no color. A couple chapters. And then I remember you even said to me, I was like, oh, why are there no, because it goes back to having colors after that. So it was like color, no color, colors. And I remember I was like, oh, what these chapters just, why'd you skip a few? And you're like, the colors are going to be crazy. They're going to be like unlike anything you've ever seen. I was like, okay. Like I'm like, I take your word because I can't give, notes on colors that don't exist. So I was just like, yeah, here's what works for this story, I guess, whatever. But it was like, to your point where it's like so much of it, you can't really fully wrap your head around until you see it. It was kind of like that. Like there was something that I knew was everything in the story was conveyed, but I was like, I felt like what I was seeing was almost like the like it was being constructed into, and I hadn't seen the final version of that yet.
Yeah. And so you and Hunter actually still have some editing to do. So
all right,
we'll go back once it's all made. But really, but the colors are coming out beautiful. So
Rob has some re-inking to do, right, Rob?
Son of a bitch.
No, I'm just joking.
I'm no longer an inker. I'm sorry. Gotta wash my hands of that. I'm inking right now. So
yeah, we're talking.
Hey, I got 2 covers I'm making. So
yeah. And
I'll always be an inker.
And Vaughn hinted on this is that just for other fans is that the covers are done by the exact same artist. We do have variants because people wanted maybe a little different take on the story, but our core covers are done by the same pencil, the same ink, or the same colors as that chapter. So we're very proud of that because we've walked in and bought a great book off the book stand that looks like $1 million only to open it up and it looks like, Snoopy. So we definitely take a lot of pride at Phenom for being consistent all the way through with our artists. So
yeah, and that's one thing I like too is like I've straight up done this where I've gotten a comic, I like the cover, and then I open it and I'm like, what? Because the variant covers are now a thing where it's like, even if I sometimes like the art on the inside, I'm like, this isn't even like close. And sometimes like for certain things that'll work, especially if it's like a more painted cover and you're like, okay, obviously. But then it's like it's what I like about it, because I remember I had even pitched to you, even though I'm not a huge fan of variant covers, I was like, oh, you should do, some variant covers. And ultimately, no, because you have these, and you don't need them. You have these solid images. But I did want to ask, because this is, again, being the unique book it is, I wondered, because I was curious, Hunter Ninja Bear, the cover is, I could see why. You got the Hunter Ninja and the bear, But this one, how did you even come up with the cover for this one? I really like this minimalist look to the cover. Like, what made you decide on this for the cover?
Oh man, Tony's gonna know this one, and Rob's gonna know this, and Scott, I wish he was here. Boy, Rob, you probably know this probably better than anybody. Because we went back through Vaughn, this goes back to when we were sort of trying to explain the ideas to Tony. So we had all these artworks, we had all these covers, we had all these images, and I can't draw, I can't color, I can't play the piano. I'm very unartistic, but it's in my brain. So my brother and I, we just have all these things that we throw on the wall, and I think we get it, but the rest of the world doesn't get it. So the best thing we could do was just kind of come up with these images that were very minimalistic and said, hey, Scott, hey, what do you think about this? Rob, do you think this? And we had all these covers. And I think Rob was the first person that loved the minimalistic. If you remember, Rob, we had almost the astronaut, and it was a silhouette with all the design inside him. And
because it was just like the book, it was different. But yeah, you and Scott, just like the designs on the robots, you and Scott went back and forth with the designs on the covers.
Yeah,
a million times, because I would get linked into those email chain, and I'm like, Jesus, just pick something.
Yeah, well, but all right, because I'll tell you, Scott had full reign on the interior covers, but I said for this one, this sort of is what is going to be out there. So we went back, and I think the astronaut with the I don't want to give it, but I guess the eyeball on his dome.
Oh, shit, I'm just noticing that now. I understand the deep
dummy.
behind that.
Yeah, now you get it. All right. Well, that was our concept, Joe and I, and then Scott put everything in the background. And for people, it'll make more sense. But so that was definitely, and then the colorist, that's, I don't want to say, but I guess I'm rolling out names, but Lee Duhigg. Lee came in, and that cover's gorgeous. I mean, that's a beautiful cover. And that's, that's pencils, that's inks, that's colors, man, because Rob came in and he's like, all right, let me do this. And he, we were saying, we got to make this dark, make it dark. And Rob's like, yeah, I get it. I'm inking, hold on. And then Lee brought it, brought some depth to it. But if everyone looks at that cover, that is the quality product that everyone's getting. It's just, that's a beautiful cover. It says more than people see it,
Yeah.
It's very 2001 Odyssey kind of vibe to it.
Yeah.
It's got that real sci-fi. It's quiet and kind of spooky.
Yeah.
And then Looking Glass, and then there are any like conspiracy theorists or sci-fi, look under Operation Looking Glass, and that's a little more insight to where Volume 1 goes. So a lot of what Tony wrote is rooted in mathematics, a lot into, conspiracy, maybe time travel theories. A lot we pulled from what we've read and heard. So, there is a lot of eye candy, but if you do dig into the story, it really connects a lot of dots that haven't been connected. So I think that's kind of the neat part of the story is you'll read it once, but if you go back a second time, you're going to see a little different nuances that you didn't pick up.
I've never had heard of that, but even looking at this, because I remember when I first saw the cover after reading the book, I was like, oh, that's like, it's just an astronaut on the moon. And then the more the look at it, it's like, even now I'm noticing stuff where it's like, and now I get to be smug for a moment because you guys haven't read it in the chat yet. So I'm just going to say, you guys have no idea the hidden meanings, and you're going to be like, oh man, that was right under my nose. But right now I could be smug for a little bit because you guys, for at least a couple, how long until the book comes out? And then I'll,
Yeah, no, but no, yeah. Enjoy it, Vaughn.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
No, but the covers, and Vaughn, if you scroll down, there's other books, but we don't. And then here, that's not a very bad. That's the one. So then you'll see some of our Scott's covers. Obviously, Rob's involved with every page on here, but I'm saying it. And then you'll see the different artists where there are 2 colorists involved here, or 3 actually. So with those covers right there in those interior pages, there's 3 different colorists, and they all did spectacular jobs. So you can almost see the vibrance of the colors. You can see that even with the interior pages, there's a lot of there's just little subtleties. So if people do look at the artwork on Kickstarter, we did take our time in putting the pages that we wanted people to see without giving too much of the story. So there was a lot of thought going into that. But I thought Scott's artwork on the covers were just gorgeous, just absolutely gorgeous on the interior covers.
Yeah. I forget if I definitely had seen that. No, the interior covers were done, right?
Scroll down, so then we do have some variants too. And so this is from Tyler Kirkham. We've got a couple of his with Steve Furchow coloring them. And we've got, just so we've got some variants kind of just sprinkled in there for fun. But I thought
this within the book, or what are the variants for?
So what we're going to do is we're going to have each issue kind of put together as a trade paperback, and separating each issue is going to be the cover, but on the flip side of the cover is going to be the variant. So really with each chapter, you get a cover, and then on the back side, you get a variant. So just for fun,
Wait, so it's within, but it's all under one book?
Yeah, so it's not a variant in the sense that you could buy multiple books. Variant. We do like variants, but we don't like charging people or going out there and buying multiple books. So what we're doing is we're giving you the story with the original cover and the variants. So it's all in there.
Wow. That's really cool. And I'm just curious, are any of these going to be available as prints?
No, not these. Scott, sorry, but Scott McDaniel is now currently doing a poster that I think is spectacular, to be quite honest. And I might just keep it for myself. Joe and I will play Hunter Ninja Bear to see who gets to keep it. But so it's pretty good. And we're actually building it for the back cover. So what we did for our first release was that we did the poster, and that's on the back page of the trade paperback. So what we're doing now is giving original artwork, which people will see on the back page, the back cover. So it serves two purposes, but it's really gorgeous. And I know I'm rambling, but what was neat to let everybody know, the Kickstarter, we had said that we were going to have a contest for people, for Hunter Ninja Bear, to do covers within the next volume. Well, we had two groups, artist, a penciler, inker, and a colorist. So we had two groups. And since volume 2 is coming out a little later, we're trying to sneak it up. We thought, how neat would that be to bring it into Star Riders? So we have two covers by fans of Hunter Ninja Bear, and they've done an outstanding job. So those will be in the collection as well. So we're very excited. There's a lot of cool little things about Star Riders that I think people really kind of take and run with. I think they'll be very excited.
Absolutely. I mean, this all looks great. Oh, Rob just went in the chat. Okay, I was wondering.
I couldn't help it. I had to say hi.
Let's see. So we got, and then there's some story details here, which you can read. Were there any details you wanted to go into, like just basic synopsis that just what you guys want to explain all here? Because obviously anyone can go ahead and read this, but like if you were to give a synopsis.
That's Tony's call. I think Tony did a great job. It's really hard not to give too many spoilers away, but Tony, that's your call. You can speak to it.
No, I think we've given enough away,
Right.
But just what a pleasure it was working with Scott again. And that guy's just a kind of a genius, and things that, Tom, I think you said something a little earlier about how when you're collaborating, you're surprised by what the person gives back, and they're surprised by what you give them, and eventually it's greater than the sum of its parts. And that's when you know that it's working. So I think we really have that going on.
Yeah, I agree, and it is hard. And I hope people are taking this vagueness as ultimate compliment, because we just don't want to spoil it. And we think it's a great story, so we don't want to go right to the fact that Darth Vader's Luke's father. I think that'd be unfair.
What?
Yeah. So.
But you go to
Spoiler.
You go to the Kickstarter page, and you'll get more than to tip here. But I think this thing is a wonderful sort of taste of the weird things that are going to come up in this story and the crazy places it'll take you.
Yeah, and John said 220 pages is huge for that price. I'm in agreement with you. It's an insane deal. It really is.
Isn't it 240?
Well, yeah, it's because you don't want to false advertise. So what we did was we said 220 on Kickstarter, but right now it's 230, and it'll probably be at the end of it will be 240 because we put the little add-ons and. Because you could add the spacer page between the chapters. I don't know if that's fair or not, but it will be more pages. It's just the way it works. But 220 is fair. That's 220. That's 220 pages of artwork, and
at least 200 pages of awesomeness.
Yeah, exactly.
At least.
So, at least. Yeah. But hey, thanks, John, and and Vaughn, thank you. Really for having us on, and because Kickstarter is important for I think. A little differently than maybe people see it as. We are going to publish this book no matter what. We're going to get it into the bookstore. We're going to make sure that this is something that fans will be able to get access to. What we're really looking for Kickstarter is to show us, hey, there is a fan base out there. This is our advertising, and your support is not so much supporting Star Riders as much as it's supporting Phenom Comics, because we've got these other stories coming. So everything that we take in from Star Riders, we're going to put right into our next project. So every ounce of support that we get from Kickstarter is truly appreciated, because we know that that's hard to earn money, and we don't take that lightly. But just know that everybody on this podcast, and even Scott that's not here in the colors, we've done a lot of hard work, and we've tried our best. This is not calling it into the office. This isn't, letting AI do the heavy lifting. This is true blue artists going at it, and we knuckled it out. And I think from that you get greatness. And I think Star Writers is great because you had great artists involved, and that's it. You don't put corn oil in a Ferrari. So what you did was we brought in the greatest artists that we could, and now we got a sports car, and now we've got the high octane fuel, and the Star Writers ready to blast off.
I'm a little nervous about my Ferrari now.
Yeah,
I feel it full of corn oil.
Yeah, you put the banana in the tailpipe.
I thought I was hungry.
Definitely check this out, guys. You're not going to want to miss this. And you get it first if you get it before everyone else. So you'll get to have that smugness of knowing if you back it now. And not just that, and it's important. Listen, little smugness.
That should be a hat. The smug hat.
Smugness of now.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like directors, if there's a movie coming out, like, I know the ending,
Yeah.
I know how it ends.
Hey, Vaughn, everybody on this call has signed an NDA, so let's all be careful.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Never mind. Well, no, I'm just letting people know that I know it. I can't say anything.
I'm joking.
I can't read,
yeah.
So it won't matter. What's an NDA?
This has been such a fun. Yeah, this is a great one. Just everything about this book is top notch. And again, like, I can't understate the amazing price and quality. And also just looking at Scott's art, what I love about it is that it's this perfect mix of like cartoony and what I like a lot of this story is traditionally, if you were to describe it, it would be more straightforward in the sense that it's like, I don't know how to describe it. More, I don't know, traditional art in the modern sense, but that little bit of cartooniness really helps. And even him, these are, a lot of dialogue scenes, and he makes them so interesting to look at that I wasn't bored for a second, where it's like people like, and even in like classrooms or scientists are just talking. If on paper, okay, well, this is on paper too, but you know what I mean? Words on a paper, just words, that could come across as really boring, right? But
yeah, those are the pages I was talking about. Look at that. Yeah. Those are just talking pages, but they are awesome. They look awesome.
And, just really, that is the power of the colorist too, because these pages, this was our Wizard of Oz. So this is the black and white section where we did want that straight, not cartoony, but it's just a straight look. So once things fall off the cliff, so do the colorists. So I do want to tell the readers that this isn't the look throughout the whole book. That once this story gets more involved and conflict occurs, so do the colorists. The colors come in and change almost the template. It's just, there's more depth to the pages, and that was all done on purpose. That everybody really, even with these pages, showed like we all had the game plan, what we wanted to achieve. So these pages are brilliant coloring wise for the reason that we needed them to be. It's because once a story does change, and don't want to give any spoilers, so do the colors. So the colors do become a little more, just different. I don't know how to explain. And then even on some of these pages, you'll see there's even accent illustrations. We brought in Chia Hao Lee, and Korean, and from Korea actually, and just a brilliant artist. And he's going in through Scott's artwork and just adding a little detail. So we're not stopping at anything. We're literally coming in every page and just throwing everything but the kitchen sink at these. So when it's all said and done, you've got 5 or 6 artists working on one page. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it really is. And I do want to ask Tony, because like, how do you find that balance between like what you write on the page, like, and what they draw? Because I imagine, maybe you did draw, you see from an overhead view, right? But like, how do you kind of find that balance with the pencil then?
I'm not sure. I try and write as minimally as I can in a script. Like give them just enough that the artist knows what they're doing. But the expectation is that whatever's in my head when I'm writing a script, the artist is going to come back with something that I did not expect, but is much better, and that's the fun of this whole process. I'm not precious about the stuff that that's in my head when I'm writing it. It's just, I want to just set the ball up so that the artist can spike it.
That's good.
As a visual medium, they're really the ones. The penciler is the guy who makes or breaks the story. If you give them the right things to work with and just kind of let them go.
Yeah, and Rob, maybe even talk about Taylor. Because Taylor brings Tony's words to life. I think Taylor's the unsung guy here.
Yeah, because I told Tom over and over again when we would be talking about the page, I go, Tom, how do you read a comic book? You literally follow the dialogue and turn the page. Like, the art is important, but we're all we might go back and look at the comic book a second or third time, but you really what you're doing is you're kind of skimming the artwork and reading that dialogue. Mm-hmm. And you turn the page, and if you stop because you're confused, because you don't know what word balloon to go to next. Something's messed up, something's goofed up with the way the letter has done something. He kicks ass. Yeah,
Tony Esposito really. I think that just bringing Tony's words to life. I think it really is neat, because I think that's the first time I can really. Appreciate Tony's stories when you really do just read it without. I mean, a letter. I think Chuck had said it. The letter's job is not to be noticed, and it's true. You're reading the story, you don't even think of the letter, and you think of Tony's words. But at the end of the day, it's really you can't have one without the other. So Tony, so Taylor Esposito really did wonders for us. Lettering,
and dude. Even scrolling, this just screams. This screams episode 1. Netflix, Star Writers, and I'm just wondering if Tony's gonna write that you're gonna go on board and do some Netflix stuff with this, Tony, when it comes out, or I mean, even when Tom, like, I know Tom always says it's gonna, he wants it to be a movie, and we butt heads on that. But dude, even when I started seeing the script and I started seeing the pages, I'm like, man, this is even paced like it's like 10 episodes of Netflix. It's paced perfect for a TV show. Cool. It's great. You wouldn't have to chop anything. For the movie, you would have to chop pieces.
Tony,
let him enjoy the comic,
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it, I guess.
Yeah, no. Rob and I butted heads on this so many times. I love, just for the people out there, just to understand, I love the self-container of a movie. Mm-hmm. Because Game of Thrones. I just got done watching Vikings. You've got just The Walking Dead. Those are all great. I never those are brilliant. But I do find the comfort in going and getting a 2-hour movie, sitting there and just walking through it. I never go back and watch 12 seasons of Game of Thrones. It just doesn't happen. So I think the self-contained unit of a movie, for the first time, I guess, is in par with a streaming series. I think they match very well. It's the going back the second time. That's why we love the Star Wars. That's why we love the Star Treks. That's why we love the Indiana Jones. It's just that you can watch the one episode. And maybe start with that example.
It's true, but if I listed my favorite movies of 2022, one of them is the latest season of Stranger Things.
That's not
and the other is Terminal List. But I know, I know it's not a movie, but it's still when it's because of streaming and because of movies, we are going to now make them almost the same thing when we talk about your favorite things to watch.
Those are probably my top 2 as well, by the way. Terminal List and Stranger Things. Terminal List was both of those were made. No, you're not wrong. I just like
I know they're not movies, but like my top 5 things that I watched last year.
So your favorite movies aren't movies?
Yes. Yeah. Well, no, because I also like Maverick. But
Top Gun Maverick was so good.
Yeah. So my top favorite things to watch, 2 of them weren't movies. They actually were, seasons on streaming. So.
Yeah, but I don't know, like Dune. I think I'm excited. I think that's kind of a neat thing. I just like, I don't know. I go back and watch old movies like Flash Gordon. I don't know. I like.
Oh no!
I love that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it gets better every time I see it.
Apparently, Billy Tucci's having Sam Jones on his show. This
Yes.
Thursday.
Mhm.
Yeah.
God, get married. There you go.
He told me
See?
because I was like, oh, I want to get on your show. He's like, you're not getting on the Flash Gordon one. I was like, okay.
Oh,
Hey,
see,
no.
all right. Hey, please tell him that. Hey, out of the blue, he brought that up, so you can tell we're hardcore guys here. But
Yeah.
and that's the beauty of those old movies. That's all I'm saying is that you do kind of it does teleport you back to that moment when you first saw it. So it's kind of neat.
No.
Yeah, I gotta confess, I've never seen it. Never seen Flash Gordon.
Oh, don't watch it.
What?
It's cheesy.
sing its
It's
praises.
cheesy. No. Tom did. Tom and Tony did.
It's so
Oh,
good.
come on. All right. First of all, Queen with the soundtrack is iconic.
Oh, I don't like that either.
And, it's all right. Marvel did a great job. Iron Man kicked off the whole thing. No one can say that they did not knock it out of the park. But before that, nobody was really slam dunking it. Even the Batmans were okay, but they weren't the greatest.
Wait. Iron Man. Do you know what Iron Man was first supposed to be? The ending? The ending was originally when Tony Stark knocks on the guy's head and he goes, how'd you fix the icing problem? That was the end. They had to go back and do reshoots.
That was
Because
the
they didn't even. Could you imagine if that was the end of the movie? I was disappointed that Iron Man's fighting at like 22% as it is, but if that was the end of the movie,
That doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
What do you mean? Like we don't see how'd you fix the icing problem, and then it just. What do you mean?
No. That's the rough ending of the movie. Is that's how Stain dies. That's the whole fight. The entire fight ends with him falling. How'd you fix the icing problem? You didn't get to see the scene on the rooftop. All that was reshoots.
Oh,
scene
yeah,
with-
that would have
yeah.
been stupid.
Like even involving Pepper into the story where she's got to blow up she's got to turn up the reactor and stuff. That really made the movie so much better because now you have
Well, there you go.
those
Hey, Rob,
characters interacting.
there were no reshoots in Flash Gordon. That's how well it was done. So
What? They didn't have any money left.
Hey guys, my dinner is calling.
okay. All right.
Thank you so much, Tony.
I mean it's great to be here. Thank you so
Yeah.
much, and just great to catch up. And if you're out there listening, give this book a chance. It's it's different, but it's good comics.
And Tony,
It's
we'll be on
amazing.
after we go through the edits with Vaughn and Hunter, then we'll come back. So we've got some tweaks. So
Oh yeah, sounds good. Yeah, Tony, I'd love to have you on again. You've been great, and thank you for coming on.
all right. See you, Tony. But
And, yeah, I mean, I just think he's trying to figure out. Yeah,
He's got to figure out how to turn it off.
yeah, you gotta figure out how to
you gotta do the leave studio.
that is
Don't mind me.
Come on, old man. You can do it.
There you go.
There, he did it.
Yeah, you know what? I'm trying to get Scott. That'd be great if Scott could pull.
Well, yeah, and if not, it's okay. I'm happy to have you guys again.
Yeah,
honestly.
we'll definitely do that because that was for everybody that's wondering where Scott McDaniel is. It's because I thought it was 7 Central, so I.
Oh, is
misled.
he Central too, or no?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't
Yeah.
I didn't know where you guys reside. Well, I know what Tom is.
Yeah, you've been to our house. What are you talking about?
Yeah. No, yeah, I know.
Yeah, come on, Vaughn. What
No,
the
I
hell?
said I know I have. Yeah, I have. That's the only one of the team I met. Well, actually, Tom and Hunter. That's it.
Yeah.
Vaughn's
I
trying to
haven't
stir
met the
the
ninja
pot.
in the bear yet.
Trying to stir the pot, Vaughn.
No, but,
I see how it's going.
Yeah. But no.
Well, hey Vaughn, I guess just from your perspective, I mean, when you did read it, I guess at the end of it, were you happy that you read it? I guess
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, because
Yeah,
at the end of the day, people are going to invest time, and I just,
Yeah, absolutely. I was happy that I read this story. It was, because it was really solid, and I was happy because, obviously, especially if I had stopped after, because this was one of those ones where you want to keep reading. Because it's I need to know what happens next until the very end. It really does keep you with each chapter, and so, I really felt that by the end, and even at the end, I was like, that's a great story. Where do we go from here?
Yeah. No, I think just all the little mechanics, Rob's inking, I think, just all these little things that people kind of gloss over. I guess I did, maybe not everybody out there, but it was very neat to see, Joe and I sort of got to pull the curtain back and to see the artists, work. And it was incredible. I mean, the inking side, where, you just don't think of the intricacies and the time put into these, but every page, for everybody out there, I'm sure everyone's thinking about doing their own comics and come with their own stories, and everybody should, take that leap. It's just remember that there's nothing easy about these. That this is a very hard medium, and it really is. The professionals make it look easy. So there are a lot of techniques, there are a lot of theories, there's a lot of just a lot of experience that goes in every page. And so when you see a page like this, it just seems like nothing, but that's pretty complicated. And
it's a lot of disciplines.
Yeah, a lot of disciplines. Yeah,
a lot of experience just to put that page together, from story to pencils to inks to colors and then lettering.
Yeah.
And think about it, like for someone who thinks they can do this on their own, if they did it on their own and they see how much work it is to do it at a professional level, like, why aren't you writing code, dude? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you have to learn so many different disciplines to do it yourself. That's one of the reasons. It's also a time thing, but it's also one of the reasons we try to master one or two things, and that's it.
Yeah.
And not try to master, because you not only will you spread yourself so thin, you're not getting all those other eyeballs looking at it going, wait a minute. More brains is better, because you can look at it and go, wait a minute, what about this idea? What about that idea? What about this idea?
Yeah.
Tony talked about that at CrossGen, with everybody talking about the story in the beginning and really shaping the next issue. The more ideas, the better, because you can Tony was the guy, he's the writer, so he got to pick and choose those ideas that he liked, and those ideas that he's like, okay, that sounds like a great idea, but it sucks considering all the stuff that has to happen in a book.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with something like this. I could tweak a little bit of Scott's pencils, maybe like, the hair or this or that, just little things. But if you were penciling it and then you were inking it and then you're coloring it, like, it's, are you going to tweak it? Or by the time you get to coloring, you're just like, Jesus, I've stared at this page for a week.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of positives to having multiple people work on a project.
Yeah.
And a page.
Yeah. Go ahead. And just to final, and you do see that, because I did pull up. So you go to the comic book store, you look at the new pages, and you see how someone's trying to do it all, and you just do lose, especially with the inks. I think inks are one of the most unsung aspects. Everybody wants just to maybe pencil and ink at the same time.
Yeah, they don't care anymore. They're just drawing it on the computer. It's all computer artwork.
I know, and man, you're losing, and I don't think people realize it, but I'm seeing it as a novice. So I'm as a fan. So when you see how the pencils evolve after the inks, you can't have pencils just become darker pencils and say, hey, that's an ink. And that's sort of what they're becoming. But just for all the people that want to do this, bring a team with you. Bring a team, because because it's impossible. Rob, you know it. I mean, you were the one that told me this. I'm echoing everything that Rob Hunter told me. But
you can see it. You can see the guys that now do both. For the most part, they're trying to draw like a cartoon. I mean, Tom and I had a million conversations about all the artists that are super influenced by anime, and anime is its characters moving and talking. Comic books, it is two-dimensional. No one's moving. It's all static. You got to add that flavor. You got to add that comic book stylization. You got to add those textures. And you see what comic books, you look at comic books in 2023 and you see all the people that don't add any of that. And then the colors tries.
Mm-hmm.
And it's falling short.
Yeah.
And that's, you see all over Star Riders, because there's multiple people doing exactly what they do to the best of their ability.
Yeah.
And, like this page should be a boring page, and it kicks ass. The page
Yeah.
we're looking at right now, it kicks ass, and it's, what's really happening on the page, but it looks great. It's a fantastic page of Talking Heads. That's not Talking Heads because of Scott, because of what I did, what the colorist did. That last panel is fantastic because of what the colorist did. Yeah.
No, and then, no, you're right. And then, I can't. It is amazing. It really, and then even the backgrounds. Rob's sick of hearing this, but I'm a huge Hush fan. I'm a huge fan of Jim Lee.
That was my first comic.
Me too. And obviously Alex Sinclair, huge fan. That's what got us even thinking about this medium. But they had backgrounds, and every one of our books will always have as much detail on the backgrounds as the foregrounds. And because that's what I love growing up. And then Hush took it to a whole nother level. And we're just trying to mimic, the best, and we brought the best into this. So Star Riders is fantastic. And it's so funny is that everyone will look at this page like, what are you talking about? Well, go look at another comic book, and it is very just a yellow background. The texts don't really line up. You know, there just really isn't, the same color palette across the board.
A lot of that is deadlines. I mean, sometimes it depends. Like sometimes it really is a stylistic thing, but like often I think even like I think I heard this somewhere that if you look at some of like Art Adams' earlier issues of like Long Shot, for example, that you'll see it's like super detailed, and then towards the end of the issue they kind of the background starts to kind of fade away because it's like you can only draw so much. I forget where I heard that, but I think it's
Art Adams, that was really early in his career, but Weiss Portacio, Art Tibier just started talking about when he worked on X Factor with Weiss Portacio. And it's funny because a lot of what we liked about Weiss Portacio was when he would zoom in and do these big panels and these close-up shots, and Art would start laughing, and he'd say, that's because as they got closer to the deadline and they started running out of time, Weiss would take a 6-panel page and just turn it into 2 or 3 panels. And there would be a big close-up of a face because they didn't have the time. Those the X deadlines were always insane because there's so much pressure on everybody. And he said they never had a month to do the whole book. So, and towards the end of the deadline, these amazing shots would get turned into close-up. Because there's some of them I do remember some of those comics where you're like, towards the end of the book, it was kind of confusing. Like, wait, what the hell's happening? Like, wait, what? Like you would think you missed pages, and it's because Weiss would be like, all I got time to do is, they're on the moon and Black Bolt's zapping using his power, and you're like, wait, what? How do we get to the moon? And deadline.
Sure. Hey, Vaughn. Yeah. Hey, don't match wits with Rob Hunter. He is a walking encyclopedia.
Yeah. No, it's good. I'm taking this all in.
I'm telling you. You can ask him any question.
I'm a nerd.
Yeah.
Nerd.
Which is the problem with the writer, because then I have, like you were saying, Rob, the obsessive. I cannot. Like I just got finished with another rewrite, or I don't even know if I'm finished with it yet, but another rewrite of my issue 1. Of the one I pitched you guys. Got to be the millionth one. And I'm like, and then I'm hearing things even now. I'm like, did I make that mistake? And it's a constant thing.
Rule number 1 when you write,
let's hear this.
When you're writing a panel, don't try to explain action in the background, the foreground, in the middle ground. All the inexperienced writers would do that all the time. Mark Bagley would talk about in Justice League constantly. He goes, the writer wants stuff happening in the background. He wants stuff happening in the middle ground, and then he still wants like a smile on Batman's face. Like you got to pick.
I definitely did that in my earlier drafts. I bet.
Yeah, maximum of 2, but really pick 1 action per panel, and don't bog down a page with too many panels. Like you can do it. You can have a 9-panel grid for specific reasons. But if you realize like you're trying to tell too much story in 1 issue, and you've got, everything is 6 panels, 8 panels, 6 panels, 8 panels, you can't do that. that your penciler will be so bored because he's just drawing a bunch of little stuff or he's just drawing close-ups. Yeah,
I think I found a decent balance.
Things.
We'll have to see. But
hey, Vaughn, all right, let me give you my 2 cents. I write a Bible.
Uh-oh.
I write a Bible every panel, and Rob hates it.
Ooh.
But the artist, the penciler's only going to read 2 lines of it anyways. So, hey, man, just give it everything you got, because at least you go back and say, hey.
You do all that hard work, and they look at 2 lines of it, despicable.
Well, that's a danger, though, because there's a danger because what if the penciler pulls out what he wants, but he doesn't pull out the important stuff.
Mm-hmm. No, I find
that's the only dangerous part about it is what if that penciler focuses on those 2 things he wants to do, and the writer's like, dude, this was really important to have in the background.
Yeah. And Vaughn, that's why we brought in, Tony. This is a perfect example. It's just for everybody that's got stories. Joe and I have great stories. And Rob, the first time we met, Rob jumped on board because he saw the stories we had and said, hey, let's roll. But Rob was also wise enough and said, hey, you guys, you can't give this to an artist. You've got to bring in people that can take your stories and put it into a comic script, not a screenplay. And that's where we brought and then it just, you have to, because there's a language between writer and artist. And if you don't master it, just like Rob said, it's going to bog down everything. You're not going to get what you want anyways, and you're just going to waste time and money. So a writer is the most valuable piece in the process, just because.
A writer who knows comic books.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what. Even earlier today, as I was going back through something, I was looking at like Frank Miller's Daredevil for a fight scene because I was like, this is how or like the Wolverine stuff. I'm like, oh, this is how you pace it out. This is how you do it. Like the earlier, it's weird. Certain, like the first couple pages without spoilers are like written in a way that's very different from how most of the rest of the comic is written. Like it's much more both general and specific. But anyway, that's about
me. You can change the pacing of a comic book by just how many panels, or how much stuff you want in a panel. Like you can have a splash page that has tons of shit going on because you want the reader to look at that page longer.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could have only 2 panels or 3 panels on the next page because you want it to move fast.
Okay. So amount of panels on a page is almost like the pacing of it.
Yeah, or because your penciler can then still go nutty.
And dialogue.
Dialogue. Yes.
Okay. I'll have to rewatch this.
I'd say it's more dialogue, to be quite honest, but it goes back to everything I pull. I hope the audience knows that I'm almost taking everything Rob's told me and just put in my own words. But I think Rob said it. 50% of the people read the words first, and 50% of the people look at the graphics first. So, really pacing, you have to think of pacing on 2 parts: the people that look at the pictures and the people that look at the story. So you've got to, so you can't pace something graphically that's not in tune with the script or with the story. It'll be kind of confusing. And that's why, and that's why I made the joke about them fighting and they're talking about dinner. Well, that happens a lot. It really does. I mean, you don't think of it, but it kind of is awkward, and those moments will never lend itself to a good story.
Yeah,
you see that in Chris Claremont's X-Men all the time, Bob.
I love it. I love it as much as one that really I remember made me upset was there's one part where Banshee was talking while flying and screaming, and I was like, he can't talk while he's screaming because that's how he flies. Yeah. And I was like, what the hell?
It could be a 3-panel page that Jim Lee drew, but Chris Claremont throws in so much. He fills the entire panel or half the panel with all this dialogue, and you're like, Jim drew this 3 panels so it would go bam, 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 and then Chris Claremont's like boom, boom, boom,
and it covers up the art. I hate comics with so much writing. I can't stand it. It's like reading a missalette in church. It's just
and they're fighting each other. The writer and the penciler are having a power. They're having a power struggle with those pages.
What I hope is I think I might have found a balance with my latest script. We'll see though. But anyway, I do have some things. So one, John, who seems to have never heard of Phenom before, he said, "Will we get notified through the email when you start the campaigns for other books? If they look like this, I'm definitely going to buy them as well."
Yeah, we just sent out emails to our backers of Hunter Ninja Bear, and I guess it's out there now on Kickstarter. So once you become a backer, we'll definitely always inform you guys. But we're trying not to be spammers either. We'll send one email out, be respectful, and just to notify you. But yeah, so currently Star Riders is out. Please, I mean, God, we need the support. We love the support. And then you can also add on and purchase Hunter Ninja Bear, which has been spectacularly reviewed, and it's got great feedback. So we're pretty proud of that. But yeah, so it's out there now. Check us out. Search Star Riders on Kickstarter, and come support us. Yeah.
And then
John has a question.
Yeah,
John is like,
well,
yeah,
I'm
John
getting
is
to the
asking
third one
if-
that you're looking at, Rob. We'll get to that one in a second. We get to the funny ones. We're getting the business, then we're getting the funny. Is there any book I need before this Star Riders? This is completely enclosed novel. It's completely enclosed. But
yes.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So yeah, definitely. And all of our stories from Phenom Comics initially are origin stories. So they all kind of get a little bit wilder in volume 2, but volume 1, we've been huge fans of just character-driven stories. So we definitely maybe they start off a little slow, but that's definitely intentional because we hate the comic books that start off and then you got to go back for a couple issues and learn about the origin story. We want to give it right from the get-go. So no, Star Riders Volume 1 is ground zero. Yeah.
All right. And so, okay, which I have two. All right. One, I'll get to this one. Good Lord, the Bear Ninja book. Come on, it's 3 words. Hunter Ninja Bear book is over 300 pages. Lol, do you guys have some poor artist locked in the basement offering a snicker every 20 pages they can count? Rob, is that what they did to you?
No, Tom and Joe paid very good comparable DC rates to all of us to work on the projects. So that's what we did. We got it was like working at DC but better, and we did our best work. That's exactly what we did. You know, we cranked out pages in a professional manner, and that's how you do high quality, big fat graphic novels like that. Is you invest. Unlike, see, everyone is been taught because of Marvel and DC, and that they don't have enough money to support the line they have going, so they got to constantly turn those books around, so then they can pay the artists. They pay the artists ahead, but then the books have to come out like within 2 months of them paying the artists. Tom and Joe paid us long before the books ever came out because they invested their resources into the team and into the books. That's what Marvel and DC do not do anymore. They do not invest their resources into the comic books. Tom and Joe have. So no, we didn't work for Snicker bars. We worked for really good solid page rates.
No, it was M&M. So no, I knew that. But I just I think, Rob, was that the one you were laughing at, or did I pull up the wrong one?
No, that's exactly the one I was laughing at.
Because there was another one earlier that was this wasn't relevant at all. Vaughn has a supervillain mind, but an asbestos man body. What does that even mean?
I didn't see that. Well,
that's why at one point when you were having like a serious, because I didn't want to interrupt with that stupid ass, but you were giving some great advice, and there's a point if you were to go back that I was like laughing, but trying to, because that anyway. But I'll do more serious notes. Great panel, fantastic, getting real nuts and bolts discussion about comic art creation.
Oh, thanks, Dr. Man.
Yeah.
And Vaughn, I would like to say that when you wear that hat, you look like you're 15. So
It's funny. I was at the bar with my friend Bobby, and like we're like 5 years apart. We're so in our 20s. They study my ID like it's for the SAT.
Yes.
Every time I go to, there was one bar in Florida. I went there like literally the night before, and he would study it so closely. I'm like,
I get the same problem, Vaughn.
Yeah.
Hey, wait a minute. I do not.
Yeah.
No.
But thank you guys so much for coming on. Everyone, make sure to back Star Riders. Before we head out, is there anything else you guys want to?
No, Vaughn, thank you. This was great. Rob, good seeing you.
Great seeing you, man.
Yeah, we're probably doing some conventions down. We're doing down there in Miami, so we'll probably see you down there. So all that good stuff.
All right, sounds good.
Cool.
Thank you guys so much for coming on, and we'll see you guys next time. I haven't my next guest I'm figuring out, so we'll. I normally announce my next guest at the end of this show. Keep an eye on my socials. Subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure to like it. Make sure to back. Although you could get Hunts Ninja Bear as well, but make sure you get Star Riders. And tonight there's going to be I'm going to be doing an after party stream, so stick around for that. And see you guys next time.
All right, thanks everybody.